Yeah. Mr. Chairman, before I ask questions, I have two articles. One highlights actors with ties to Iran attempting to influence and finance anti-Israel protests in our country. The other article mentions that Russia is also trying to exploit divisions over the Israel-Hamas conflict. Rabbi,
Without objection, they'll be entered in the record. Proceed, Senator.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are some of the higher education institutions either wittingly or unwittingly shielding or even fostering anti-Semitism in the United States today? Rabbi?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Yes, I'll point you to a study done by the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy, which found that at least 100 American colleges and universities illegally withheld information on approximately $13 billion in undocumented contributions from foreign governments, many of which are authoritarian. The study found higher levels of anti-Semitic incidents reported on those campuses. From 2015 to 2020. Institutions that accepted money from Middle Eastern donors had, on average, 300% more anti-Semitic incidents on campus than institutions that did not. And campus-level anti-Semitic incidents, by the way, forward predict county-level anti-Semitic incidents, including hate crimes.
Further question, Rabbi. Have the Department of Justice and Department of Education in this administration done enough to address epidemic of hate speech and anti-Semitism on the college campuses? And if the answer is yes or no, what more should the administration do from your opinion?
Unfortunately, they have done nowhere near enough. They should enforce the laws as written, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. If the words of Title VI mean anything, it talks about, behavior that is severe and pervasive enough that it interferes with the person's education. They have to mean something that has to include what's happening to Jewish students on campus right now. And we have seen 0 universities lose their funding, even as these encampments literally force Jews out of parts of the school. So no, they have not done more, and they should also enforce laws like the Nationality Act, which prohibit foreign students from providing material support to terrorism.
Yeah. You gave some evidence about the amount of money being spent by terrorist groups, but what have you discovered about Hamas's potential funding of college protests, and what evidence have you relied on to form your opinion?
Well, it actually goes beyond funding, Senator. Going back to the Supreme Court case in Holder versus Humanitarian Law in 2010, it's not just money that counts, it's services as well. And unfortunately, these student groups on campus are literally acting as the PR agents of Hamas. Some countries spend up to $200 million a year on PR firms. Hamas can't because they're an FTO. But immediately after October 7th, some of these groups, like the National Students for Justice in Palestine, came out and said, we are not just in solidarity with this movement, we are part of this movement. They chanted, we are Hamas. And when a group tells you that they are trying to provide material support to terrorists, you should believe them. And so it's not just an exchange of money, it's a coordination with Hamas that is a terrible problem.
In the same vein as my question just asked, there have been media reports citing Iran, Russia, and other international actors as taking advantage and stoking civil rights unrest here. What do you think, Rabbi, what do you think can be done to counter this malignant influence?
I think in general, Senator, we need better tracking of the kind of donations that are coming from overseas, whether it's to 501c3s that are in theory acting as charities, but are actually, as in the case of the Palestine Chronicle, for example, literally paying money to a terrorist that was holding 4 hostages in his house, 3 hostages in his house. I think that it would behoove the United States government to remove the tax status of any charity that provides material support to terrorists.
Yeah. And I think you've talked around this next question I have, but I'd like to ask it more directly, Rabbi. What has allowed for the recent rise of anti-Semitism and hate in our communities?
Senator, that's a very hard question to answer. It is really difficult to talk about why anti-Semitism persists. It's the kind of thing that is a mutating virus. Different parts of society hate Jews for being whatever they don't like. So Jews are at the same time too strong and too weak. They're parasitic and overpowering. They are superhuman, like in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, or they're subhuman, like in Nazi ideology. What has led to the problem and the infestation of anti-Semitism is the fact that we don't have clear definitions that authorities can use to rely on when they're trying to assess the intent behind anti-Semitic crime. So, for example, everyone here knows that if you attack a Chinese person because you think they have unfair trade policies, that is ethnic or national origin discrimination. If you attack a Russian person because you think Russia should not have invaded Ukraine, that is national origin or ethnic discrimination. But if you attack a Jewish person because you hate Israel, for some reason there's some confusion. We need clear definitions, and that will do the job.